Welcome to the home of forbidden love stories. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. They said I was too weak to be an alpha, too soft, too forgiving. My Omega paraded his lovers in front of our friends, destroyed my reputation with lies, and when I finally walked away, he sued me for breaking his heart. But the quiet Omega I spent one broken night with? He gave me something my fated mate never could, a reason to fight back.
If you're just joining us, subscribe to the channel for more interesting boys' love story. Here's what you need to know.
The bakery box felt heavier than it should as Kyung-ho fumbled with his apartment keys, exhaustion settling into his bones like concrete. The client meeting had run 3 hours over time, but he'd stopped anyway, driven across town to that pretentious French bakery Jun-sik loved, the one with the raspberry macarons that cost more than a decent meal. A peace offering. 3 days of cold silence was long enough. The apartment greeted him with darkness, except for the sliver of light beneath their bedroom door. Kyung-ho loosened his tie, heading down the hallway with the pastry box extended like a white flag. He found Jun-sik standing before the mirror, fastening silver cufflinks, hair still damp and slicked back from a recent shower. The Omega's reflection met his briefly before returning to its task, indifferent. "I brought your favorites," Kyung-ho offered, setting the box on the dresser. "The raspberry ones you like." Jun-sik glanced at the box with barely concealed disdain. "Those are cream-filled. I like the fruit-filled ones. But of course you wouldn't remember that, would you?" The words stung more than they should have. Kyung-ho had been so certain. He'd even confirmed with the woman at the counter. "I thought. You never listen." Jun-sik cut him off, spraying cologne at his wrists. The scent was wrong, sharp and expensive, nothing like the soft citrus he usually wore. Nothing like anything Kyung-ho had ever bought him. 2 years ago, Jun-sik had cried at their bonding ceremony. Happy tears, he'd insisted, clutching Kyung-ho's hands as the officiant sealed their marks. "I'm so proud to be yours," he'd whispered against Kyung-ho's neck that night, scent drunk and blissful. "My alpha. My architect who builds dreams." The memory felt like it belonged to different people now. "Are you going somewhere?" Kyung-ho asked, noting the tailored shirt, the expensive watch. "A work event. Networking." Jun-sik's tone made it clear he found the question tedious. "Since you clearly don't care about spending time with me anyway, I might as well focus on my own career." "That's not fair. I had a client meeting." "You always have a client meeting." Jun-sik turned, and that's when Kyung-ho saw it. A dark purple mark blooming on his collarbone, partially hidden by his collar. Fresh. Deliberate. Kyung-ho's stomach dropped. "What's that?" "What's what?" But Jun-sik's hand flew to his neck, defensive. "That mark. You didn't have it this morning." The Omega's eyes flashed dangerously. "Are you seriously accusing me of something right now? This is exactly why alphas like you stay single. You're paranoid and controlling. Maybe I bumped into something. Maybe it's none of your business." "Jun-sik. I'm leaving." He grabbed his jacket, movements sharp with fury. "Don't wait up. Clearly you're more interested in playing detective than being a decent partner." The door slammed with finality. Kyung-ho stood frozen in their bedroom, surrounded by the cloying scent of unfamiliar cologne and his own unraveling relationship. The scent clinging to Jun-sik's skin hadn't been cologne at all. It had been another alpha. His phone buzzed. A text from his colleague Min-soo. "Saw Jun-sik at bar 9 with some alpha. Thought you should know." Kyung-ho sank onto the bed, the pastry box still sitting unopened on the dresser, and finally let himself acknowledge what he'd been avoiding for months. Everything was falling apart. The Grand Lotus Ballroom glittered with champagne flutes and ambition, the Architectural Society's annual gala in full swing. Kyung-ho adjusted his bow tie for the 3rd time, scanning the crowd for Jun-sik, who'd insisted on coming separately to make an entrance. When his Omega finally arrived, 40 minutes late, every head turned. Jun-sik wore midnight blue that hugged every curve, his hair artfully tousled, moving through the crowd like he owned it. He caught Kyung-ho's eye across the room and smiled, brilliant, empty, before gravitating toward the bar where Min-jun held court. Kyung-ho's jaw tightened. Min-jun, the alpha developer who'd stolen 3 of his contracts last year with underhanded tactics and family money. Of course. Dinner was excruciating. Seated at the sponsor's table, Jun-sik's voice carried deliberately across the linen and crystal. "He's so focused on his buildings, he forgets I exist. What good is an alpha who can't even make time for his Omega?" Sympathetic murmurs from nearby tables. Kyung-ho felt eyes on him, judging, weighing, finding him wanting. He was reviewing his presentation notes when Jun-sik reached across him for the wine, the movement too sharp, too deliberate. Red splashed across the carefully prepared pitch deck, bleeding through months of research into an expensive disaster. "Oh no," Jun-sik gasped hand to mouth. "I'm so clumsy. I'm sure you can improvise though, darling. You're so smart." Kyung-ho improvised, stumbled through statistics from memory while potential investors exchanged glances. Professional. Unprepared. Weak. After dinner, the dancing began. Kyung-ho watched Jun-sik float into Min-jun's arms, watched his Omega tilt his head back in exaggerated laughter, watched Min-jun's nose brush against the bonding mark on Jun-sik's neck. A deliberate insult, a public claiming. Jun-sik let him. A hand on Kyung-ho's shoulder made him flinch. Director Han, 70 years old and traditionally minded, wore disappointment like a second tuxedo. "Control your Omega, son, or you'll lose respect in this industry." Bonded Omegas who behave like that reflect poorly on their alphas. People are talking. The courtroom was blessedly empty when Kyung-ho finally cornered Jun-sik there, fury overriding humiliation. "What the hell are you doing?" "Enjoying myself." Jun-sik examined his manicure board. "Something you've clearly forgotten how to do. You let him scent you. In front of everyone. In front of my colleagues. Maybe if you were more of an alpha instead of a doormat, I wouldn't need attention from real men." Jun-sik's smile was a knife. "Min-jun makes me feel desired. You make me feel like a trophy you've forgotten on a shelf. There's a difference." The words landed like physical blows. Kyung-ho stood there, watching his bonded mate, his fated mate, look at him with contempt, and felt something fundamental crack inside his chest. He left without saying goodbye to anyone. The messages started before he reached his car. Colleagues expressing concern. Others less kind. One from Director Han. "We should talk about the partnership track." But the message that burned was from Min-jun, sent at midnight. "Your Omega is wasted on you. Just thought you should know he thinks so too." Kyung-ho sat in his car in the parking garage, surrounded by concrete and exhaust fumes and the wreckage of his professional reputation, and finally let himself wonder. How much more could he take before there was nothing left? The community center blueprints blurred before Kyung-ho's eyes, lines of hope and accessible design bleeding into meaningless geometry. He'd been staring at the same elevation for 3 hours, trying to pour his fracturing soul into something good, something that mattered. Behind him, Jun-sik hummed while getting ready, the sound grating like nails on glass. "I'm going out," Jun-sik announced, fastening diamond cufflinks Kyung-ho didn't recognize. Min-jun's birthday party. Should be fun. The pencil in Kyung-ho's hand snapped. "You're going to his party?" "After what he said. Unlike you, Min-jun appreciates me." Jun-sik's reflection in the hallway mirror was immaculate, untouchable. "He doesn't treat me like I'm some fragile thing that needs protecting. He treats me like an equal." Kyung-ho stood, blueprints forgotten. Equals don't disrespect their partner's bond. "We're mated, Jun-sik. A bond I'm starting to regret." The Omega turned, and his eyes were cold, so cold. "You're suffocating me with your weakness. Do you know what people say? That I settled. That I could have had any alpha in the city, and I chose the one who builds low-income housing and works himself to death for scraps." Something in Kyung-ho's chest went quiet. Dangerously quiet. "Go. But if you leave tonight, don't expect me to be here when you get back." Jun-sik laughed, bright and cruel. "Is that supposed to be a threat? Please. You need me more than I need you. Without me, you're just another mediocre alpha with more dreams than talent." The door slammed. Kyung-ho stood in the sudden silence, surrounded by blueprints for a building meant to house families who'd lost everything and felt kinship with them for the first time. He lasted 2 hours before his phone started buzzing. Instagram notifications, text messages, concerned calls from people who were never quite concerned enough to warn him before. His hands shook as he opened the first story. Jun-sik, pressed against Min-jun in what was clearly a bedroom doorway, the alpha's hands possessive on his waist. The next story showed them disappearing inside, Jun-sik's laugh audible over the party music. The final video, posted 30 minutes later, them emerging disheveled, Jun-sik's neck bearing fresh marks, his bonding scar to Kyung-ho deliberately covered by someone else's claim. Kyung-ho moved on autopilot. Suitcases from the storage closet. Jun-sik's designer clothes folded with mechanical precision. Shoes, accessories, that expensive cologne. Everything that screamed Omega and mine, and never really yours went into boxes by the door. The bonding mark on his own neck began to burn. He stood before the bathroom mirror, watching it fade in real time, not through any ritual or ceremony, but through sheer force of will and a heart too broken to sustain a bond built on lies. The Omega who'd promised forever had just publicly chosen another alpha. The mark knew. It always knew. When Jun-sik returned at 3 a.m, reeking of sex and Min-jun's cologne and his own satisfied triumph, he found his entire life packed neatly by the door. Kyung-ho sat on the couch in the dark, his faded bonding mark hidden beneath his collar, and said just 2 words. Get out. The Instagram post appeared 2 days after the breakup. Jun-sik's face artfully tear-stained, eyes red-rimmed and devastating. When you give everything to someone who can't even give you basic affection, broken heart, sometimes the hardest thing is realizing you were never enough for someone who was everything to you. Kyung-ho stared at his phone screen in his darkened office, watching the likes and sympathetic comments pile up. Hearts and crying emojis. You deserve better, babe. His loss. Always knew that Alpha was cold. His assistant knocked softly. Mr. Choi? The Harrison Group called. They're reconsidering the contract. Something about wanting to work with someone more stable. The posts kept coming. Jun-sik at brunches with friends, bravely smiling through his pain. Jun-sik being comforted by Min-jun, the Alpha's arm protectively around his shoulders. The narrative crystallized across social media. Neglectful Alpha, suffering Omega, inevitable tragedy. Their mutual friends started choosing sides. Most chose Jun-sik, charismatic, wounded, so convincing when he whispered that Kyung-ho had been controlling, had refused intimacy, had forced him to seek connection elsewhere just to feel wanted. Document everything, Taesung insisted over coffee, his beta practicality cutting through Kyung-ho's fog. Every post, every message, every lie. This could get legal. He wouldn't. He already is. Character assassination is still assault, Kyung-ho. Sleep became theoretical. Food tasted like ash. Kyung-ho buried himself in work, but the whispers followed him to every meeting, every site visit. That's the Alpha who couldn't keep his Omega satisfied. Professional connections cooled. 3 potential projects evaporated. The coffee shop meeting was Taesung's idea. Neutral ground to return Jun-sik's remaining belongings. Kyung-ho arrived early with a small box of jewelry and photographs. He should have known Jun-sik wouldn't come alone. They walked in together, Min-jun's hand possessive on Jun-sik's lower back, both wearing matching satisfied smirks. Every head in the coffee shop turned. I hope you're happy, Jun-sik announced, loud enough to carry. You destroyed what we had because you couldn't handle me being successful and independent. Kyung-ho set the box down carefully, his voice quiet but steady. I destroyed it? I watched you humiliate me for months. I forgave you. I tried to understand. And you repaid me by sleeping with my rival at a party you knew would be photographed. That's what you get for being a weak excuse for an alpha. Jun-sik's smile was vicious. Maybe this will teach you to be better for your next Omega, if anyone's desperate enough to bond with you. Kyung-ho stood, leaving the box on the table, and walked toward the door. Behind him, Min-jun's voice rang out. By the way, we're getting bonded next month. You're welcome to come celebrate what a real Alpha-Omega relationship looks like. He kept walking. Out of the coffee shop, into the autumn afternoon, away from the relationship that had slowly poisoned everything good in his life. And somewhere between the coffee shop and his car, something fundamental shifted. Not heartbreak. Not anymore. Clarity. He deserved better than this. Better than public humiliation and gaslighting and a bond that had only ever served one person. The realization settled into his bones like architecture, solid, unshakable, true. Kyung-ho pulled out his phone and texted Taesung. Document everything. If he wants a war, let's make sure the truth comes out. Twilight Bar lived up to its name. All amber lighting and shadowed corners, bookshelves lining exposed brick walls, jazz drifting through the air like smoke. Nothing like the chrome and neon places Jun-sik had dragged him to, where everything was performance and volume. You need to rejoin the living, Taesung had insisted, practically dragging Kyung-ho out of his apartment where he'd been surviving on coffee and spite for 3 weeks. 1 drink. That's all I'm asking. Kyung-ho nursed his whiskey, watching couples lean into each other at corner tables, their intimacy casual and real. His chest ached with the hollow weight of it. Hold that thought, Taesung said, phone buzzing. Client emergency. I'll be right back. Left alone at the bar, Kyung-ho traced the rim of his glass and tried not to think about Instagram posts or bonding ceremonies, or the way his apartment still smelled faintly of expensive cologne. Movement beside him. An Omega settling onto the next bar stool, carrying a worn poetry book and the scent of vanilla, old paper, and something indefinably soothing. Not performance. Just presence. Their eyes met accidentally. The Omega offered a shy smile, genuinely warm. Rough night. Rough month, Kyung-ho admitted, surprising himself. I know that feeling. The Omega gestured to his book. Hence the Neruda and whiskey pairing. I'm Woo-jin. Kyung-ho. They talked. Tentatively at first. Weather, the bar's excellent playlist, safe territory. But Woo-jin had this way of listening, head tilted slightly, giving his full attention like conversations were meant to be savored rather than endured. I run a bookstore, Woo-jin explained, fingers tracing his glass. Small place in the arts district. Mostly used books, some rare editions. It's quiet work. That sounds peaceful. It is. Especially after. Woo-jin paused, something painful flickering across his features. I recently ended things with someone who wanted to change everything about me. The store was too small, my ambitions too limited, my taste too boring. Apparently loving what you do isn't enough if it doesn't look impressive on Instagram. Kyung-ho laughed, bitter and understanding. God, I know exactly what you mean. The conversation flowed easier after that. Woo-jin didn't know about the gala disaster or the viral posts or Kyung-ho's professional reputation circling the drain. He just knew this tired alpha across from him and seemed to genuinely enjoy talking to him. For the first time in weeks, Kyung-ho felt himself relax, muscles unknotting, jaw unclenching, something warm unfurling in his chest that wasn't just whiskey. Their laughter tangled together over shared stories of terrible exes and worse timing. Woo-jin's hand brushed his reaching for a napkin, and neither pulled away immediately. The Omega's scent strengthened, vanilla and comfort, and Kyung-ho found himself leaning closer. I don't usually do this, Woo-jin said eventually, cheeks flushed, eyes bright. But, would you like to come back to my place? No expectations. Just company. Kyung-ho should say no. Should go home, keep healing, not complicate things. But Woo-jin was looking at him like he was worth something, and it had been so long since anyone had looked at him like that. I'd like that, he heard himself say. They left together, Taesung's knowing text ignored in Kyung-ho's pocket. The night air was crisp with autumn and possibility, and neither of them expected this to be more than comfort for one lonely night. Neither knew it would change everything. Woo-jin's apartment sat above his bookstore, accessed by a narrow staircase that creaked with age and character. The moment they stepped inside, Kyung-ho was surrounded by books, stacked on shelves, piled on tables, creating small labyrinths of literature in the warm lamplight. It smelled like old paper and vanilla and home. Woo-jin locked the door behind them, fingers trembling slightly. I should probably. Do you want tea or? No, Kyung-ho said softly, stepping closer until they were sharing breath. Just you. Their first kiss was hesitant, testing boundaries neither was sure existed. Soft lips, careful hands, the question hanging between them. Then Woo-jin made a small sound in the back of his throat, surprise, want, permission, and something unleashed. Kyung-ho pressed him against the nearest bookshelf, deepening the kiss, swallowing Woo-jin's gasp. The Omega's hands fisted in his shirt, pulling him closer, and books tumbled to the floor around them, forgotten casualties of something neither could stop now. Bedroom, Woo-jin breathed against his mouth, and Kyung-ho followed him through the small apartment, shedding clothes along the way, jacket, shirt, shoes kicked off haphazardly. Woo-jin's bedroom was small and intimate, all soft fabrics and gentle lighting. They fell into bed together, and under sheets that smelled like lavender and safety, Kyung-ho rediscovered what intimacy should feel like. This wasn't performance. Woo-jin didn't arch artificially or moan for effect. When Kyung-ho kissed down his neck, the Omega shivered genuinely, breath hitching with real pleasure. When their bodies aligned, skin to fevered skin, Woo-jin's responses were honest, unguarded in ways that made Kyung-ho's chest ache. Tell me what you need, Kyung-ho murmured against Woo-jin's throat, inhaling his sweet Omega scent, vanilla and arousal and something uniquely him. You, Woo-jin whispered, arching into his touch with unfeigned need. Just be here with me. So Kyung-ho took his time, mapped every inch of Woo-jin's skin with reverent hands and mouth, relearning tenderness he'd forgotten he possessed. The Omega trembled beneath him, clutching at his shoulders, and it wasn't manipulation or test. It was trust, raw and precious. Please, Woo-jin gasped, and Kyung-ho finally gave them both what they needed. Their coupling started slow, Kyung-ho mindful of the gift being offered, Woo-jin welcoming him with soft sounds and softer touches. But the rhythm built naturally, both of them lost in sensation, in the novelty of being wanted without conditions or expectations. Woo-jin's nails dug into Kyung-ho's back, his cries filling the room as pleasure built between them like a tide. "Don't stop," Woo-jin pleaded, voice breaking, and Kyung-ho had no intention of stopping. When they finally tumbled over the edge together, it wasn't with dramatic declarations or performative theatrics. Just breathless relief, genuine pleasure, two broken people finding unexpected solace in each other's arms. Afterward, they lay tangled together, sweat cooling on their skin in the quiet dark. Woo-jin traced idle patterns on Kyung-ho's chest, constellations, perhaps, or poetry written in touch. Neither spoke, both processing what had just happened. "Stay," Woo-jin asked quietly, vulnerability threading through the question. "Just for tonight?" Kyung-ho pulled him closer, pressing a kiss to his temple. "Yeah, I'll stay." They fell asleep like that. Two strangers who'd found each other in the wreckage of their past relationships, neither knowing that this single night would bind them together in ways they couldn't yet imagine. Morning light filtered through the curtains, soft and gold. Kyung-ho woke slowly, finding Woo-jin still asleep beside him, face peaceful in a way that made his chest ache with something unnamed. He should leave. This was supposed to be one night, nothing more. Comfort and release, and then separate paths. But watching Woo-jin sleep, dark lashes against pale cheeks, lips slightly parted, something shifted inside him. Something that whispered stay and more and what if. When Woo-jin's eyes fluttered open, they were shy but warm. Coffee. They sat in Woo-jin's tiny kitchen, wrapped in borrowed robes, drinking coffee and stealing glances like teenagers. Before leaving, they exchanged numbers with fumbling fingers and hopeful hearts. "Maybe we could do this again sometime?" Woo-jin suggested, cheeks flushed. Coffee. Or dinner. If you want." Kyung-ho smiled, genuinely smiled, for the first time in weeks. "I'd like that." Walking home through the morning city, he already knew he wanted to see this gentle Omega again. They fell into each other slowly, carefully, like two people who'd learned that rushing only led to wreckage. Coffee dates at the shop down the street from Woo-jin's bookstore. Long walks through autumn parks, leaves crunching underfoot. Evenings after closing, Kyung-ho helping repair sagging shelves while Woo-jin sorted inventory, their comfortable silence punctuated by soft laughter. "You're actually good at this," Woo-jin observed, watching Kyung-ho level a bookshelf with practiced precision. "I'm an architect. If I couldn't fix a shelf, I'd need to reconsider my career." "Fair point." Woo-jin handed him another screw, fingers brushing. The touch lingered, as it always did now. Their physical relationship continued. Tender nights in Woo-jin's lavender-scented bed, passionate encounters against bookshelves after hours, always honest and unhurried. Neither brought up labels or future plans. They were both healing, and this undefined thing between them felt safer than promises. When June 6 texts started coming, first apologetic, then accusatory, finally desperately manipulative, Kyung-ho blocked him without reading past the first few words. When Instagram showed him photos of Jun-sik and Min-jun's increasingly public arguments at exclusive venues, their perfect relationship, already showing cracks, Kyung-ho kept scrolling. "You okay?" Woo-jin asked one evening, noticing Kyung-ho's phone face down on the table. "Yeah," Kyung-ho said, and meant it. Just deleting the past. Professional life began turning around. The Harrison Group reconsidered after seeing his community center pitch. Affordable housing with innovative design. Everything his passion had always been about. Director Han called personally to apologize for his earlier judgment. "Sometimes we mistake quiet strength for weakness," the old alpha admitted. "That was my error." The contract signing was small, professional, meaningful. Kyung-ho texted Woo-jin a photo of the signed documents, and got back a string of celebration emojis and proud of you. That night, celebrating with takeout and wine in Woo-jin's apartment, the Omega suddenly went pale. "You all right?" Kyung-ho asked, concerned. Woo-jin pressed a hand to his stomach, breathing carefully. "Yeah, just nauseous. I've been feeling off lately. Exhausted, queasy. Probably stress from inventory season. You should rest more," says the man who works 16-hour days. They laughed it off, and the moment passed. But the nausea persisted. The exhaustion deepened. Woo-jin started keeping crackers by his bed, declining wine with dinner, falling asleep during movies they'd planned to watch together. "Maybe see a doctor?" Kyung-ho suggested gently. "It's probably nothing. Just my body being dramatic." 3 weeks later, Woo-jin stood alone in his bathroom at 6 in the morning, staring at the plastic test in his shaking hands. 2 pink lines. Unmistakable, impossible, terrifyingly real. He took 3 more tests. All positive. The dates matched up perfectly. That first night, desperate and unplanned, when neither had been thinking about consequences beyond comfort. There was only one possible father. Woo-jin sank to the bathroom floor, test still clutched in his hand, and felt his world tilt sideways. They weren't even officially dating. Kyung-ho was still healing from a devastating breakup. And now Woo-jin was pregnant with his child. His phone sat on the sink, Kyung-ho's contact photo smiling up at him. A candid shot from last week, laughing over books. What am I going to tell him? The pregnancy tests multiplied like evidence in a trial Woo-jin was prosecuting against himself. 6 of them lined up on his bathroom counter by the end of the week, all screaming the same verdict in pink lines and plus signs. His sister Ji-won found him staring at them when she stopped by with groceries. Woo-jin. She froze in the bathroom doorway, Beta nose unable to detect the subtle shift in his scent, but eyes perfectly capable of reading the situation. Oh no. 6 weeks, he whispered. At least that's what the internet says based on symptoms. Ji-won, eternally practical in her nurse scrubs, sat beside him on the bathroom floor. The father? Kyung-ho. The alpha I've been seeing. It's not official. He just got out of this horrible relationship and I was supposed to be a distraction and now. His voice cracked. What am I going to do? You're going to tell him. What if he thinks I did this on purpose? What if he runs? What if this destroys the one good thing I've had in years? But the alternative, not telling him, raising a child alone, living with that deception, felt worse. Woo-jin started pulling away. Cancelled coffee dates with flimsy excuses. Texted instead of calling. When Kyung-ho suggested dinner, Woo-jin claimed inventory emergencies that didn't exist. Each lie tasted like ash, but the truth terrified him more. Did I do something wrong? Kyung-ho asked finally, concern threading through his voice during a rare phone call. If I pushed too hard or moved too fast. No, Woo-jin said quickly, hating himself. Just busy. That's all. The lie sat between them like a wall. On Thursday evening, Woo-jin finally texted. Can you come to the bookstore after closing? We need to talk. Those 4 words, we need to talk, carried the weight of ending things, and Kyung-ho arrived looking braced for impact. Woo-jin had locked the door, dimmed the lights. His hands shook as he twisted them together. I'm pregnant. The words tumbled out, desperate and terrified. It's yours. I know this isn't what either of us planned, and if you want nothing to do with this, I'll understand, but I thought you deserved to know. Silence. Kyung-ho stood frozen, eyes wide, processing. Woo-jin watched him flash back to something. Probably his ex, probably every complicated relationship landmine that had brought him here. The silence stretched too long. Woo-jin felt tears spill over. I'm sorry, I'll go, I shouldn't have. You're keeping it? Kyung-ho's voice was carefully neutral. Woo-jin's defenses slammed up. Yes. I know I'm not ready, I know this is terrible timing, but... Then I'm in. Kyung-ho stepped closer, and his eyes were clear. Certain. Completely. If you'll have me. Woo-jin stared at him, tears streaming down his face, unable to process those words. You want this? You want to be involved? Kyung-ho took his shaking hands, holding them gently. I want to be more than involved. I want to do this right. With you. If you'll let me. But your ex, the breakup, everything you've been through, was all wrong. Kyung-ho's thumbs traced circles on Woo-jin's knuckles. This feels right. Terrifying, but right. For the first time since seeing those 2 pink lines, Woo-jin felt something other than fear. He felt hope. The first ultrasound happened on a Tuesday morning, Woo-jin's hand crushing Kyung-ho's as the technician spread cold gel across his still flat stomach. Then the screen flickered to life, a tiny bean-shaped blur, heartbeat pulsing like a promise, and they both started crying. That's our baby, Kyung-ho whispered, awed. Our baby, Woo-jin echoed, and the word "our" settled between them like a vow. Kyung-ho moved in the following week, not with grand declarations, but with practical necessity. His apartment lease was ending, Woo-jin needed help with the stairs, and neither wanted to spend nights apart anymore. Their lives combined organically. Kyung-ho's drafting table in the corner, Woo-jin's books everywhere, 2 coffee mugs becoming routine. Late nights became sacred. Woo-jin would read poetry aloud to his growing belly, voice soft and melodic, while Kyung-ho sketched nursery designs in the spare room. What about clouds on the ceiling? He'd suggest. Stars. And Woo-jin would smile, hand resting on the swell of their child, and say, perfect. They built furniture together. Kyung-ho's capable hands assembling cribs and changing tables, while Woo-jin directed from his nest of pillows, organizing tiny clothes by color. Cautiously, carefully, they were falling in love around the edges of impending parenthood. When Woo-jin's heat hit during the second trimester, gentle and manageable, pregnancy hormones softening its intensity, their intimacy deepened into something profound. Kyung-ho was achingly careful, reverently tender, and afterward held Woo-jin like he was something precious. We should probably make this official, Woo-jin murmured against his chest. They registered as partners at the district office, simple and legal, but didn't bond. Let's see where this goes, they agreed, both still healing, both wanting to choose each other freely rather than through biology's demands. Then the letter arrived. Kyung-ho found it mixed with pregnancy pamphlets and furniture catalogs, the law firm's letterhead stark and threatening. Notice of intent to sue for infidelity and emotional damages. Junsik Park versus Kyung-ho Choi. He found out, Kyung-ho said flatly, reading through legalese that accused him of adultery during their bonded relationship, of emotional abandonment, of causing irreparable harm to Junsik's mental health and career prospects. Woo-jin went pale, hand protective over his 7-month belly. This is my fault. I'm ruining your life. No. Kyung-ho's voice was steel. He caught Woo-jin's face in his hands, forcing eye contact. He did this. Not you. Not our baby. Him. He cheated, he lied, he humiliated me publicly, and now he wants to play victim because I found happiness without him. His phone was already dialing. Tae-sung? I need you to represent me. And I need you to go after him for everything he did to me. No more playing nice. No more taking the high road. If he wants a war, let's give him truth instead. Tae-sung's response was immediate. About damn time. I'll file counterclaims tomorrow. The lawsuit became a shadow over their final trimester, but it couldn't touch the small moments of joy. Woo-jin's belly grew round and active, their baby kicking enthusiastically during poetry readings. They painted the nursery pale yellow together, hung mobiles of paper cranes prepared. One quiet evening, a week before the due date, Kyung-ho knelt beside Woo-jin on the couch and pressed a kiss to his swollen belly. We're going to protect you, little one, he whispered to the life they'd created. No matter what it takes. Woo-jin ran his fingers through Kyung-ho's hair, feeling their baby kick in response to its father's voice, and knew with absolute certainty. Whatever storm was coming, they'd face it together. The contractions started during a thunderstorm, rain lashing against the windows like the universe had chosen drama for their son's arrival. Woo-jin gripped the bookstore counter, breathing through the pain while Kyung-ho frantically searched for the hospital bag they'd packed weeks ago. Found it. Kyung-ho emerged triumphant, then saw Woo-jin's face. We need to go. Now. The drive was a blur of lightning and anxiety, Kyung-ho's hand never leaving Woo-jin's except to shift gears. Labor was long. 14 hours of pain and pressure, and Kyung-ho whispering encouragement until his voice went hoarse. When the doctor finally said push, Woo-jin bore down with everything he had, and the world narrowed to that single moment of unbearable intensity. Then a cry. Sharp, indignant, alive. It's a boy, the doctor announced, and suddenly there was a tiny, squirming baby being placed on Woo-jin's chest, all wrinkled skin and dark hair, and impossibly small fingers. Kyung-ho stared, tears streaming freely down his face. He's perfect. Ho-jun, Woo-jin whispered, the name they'd chosen together. Our little Ho-jun. When they finally let Kyung-ho hold his son, something fundamental shifted in his chest. This tiny life, weight barely there, trusting him completely. Ho-jun's eyes, dark and unfocused, seemed to look right through him, and Kyung-ho understood with devastating clarity. This was what he'd been building toward his entire life. Not buildings or contracts or professional respect. This. Family. Love. Home. I've got you, he promised his son, voice breaking. Always. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside that hospital room, everything was perfect. Ho-jun was 3 weeks old when the lawsuit officially began, his innocent gurgles providing surreal counterpoint to legal documentation piling up on their kitchen table. Woo-jin had just finished nursing when the courier arrived with the formal complaint. 23 pages of accusations, character assassination dressed in legal language. He's claiming I abandoned our bond to pursue an affair, Kyung-ho read aloud, voice tight with controlled fury. That I caused him severe emotional distress leading to lost career opportunities and damaged reputation. He's asking for 200,000 in damages. Woo-jin shifted Ho-jun to his shoulder, patting their son's tiny back. Can he actually win? Not if we fight back. Taesung arrived within the hour, briefcase in hand and beta efficiency in full effect. He spread documents across the table, away from baby bottles and burp cloths. I've been building our case. Hotel receipts, text messages, witness statements. Jun-sik doesn't know what's coming. The preliminary hearing happened on a gray Tuesday morning. Kyung-ho's parents, who'd flown in from Busan to meet their grandson, watched Ho-jun while Woo-jin and Kyung-ho faced their first courtroom appearance. Jun-sik sat across the aisle with Min-jun, both wearing expensive suits and practiced expressions of wounded dignity. All rise for the Honorable Judge Kong. Judge Kong was a stern alpha woman in her 60s, known for her no-nonsense approach and intolerance for frivolous claims. She reviewed the complaint with sharp eyes before addressing the room. Mr. Park, you're claiming Mr. Choi committed infidelity during your bonded relationship, correct? Jun-sik's lawyer stood, all polished confidence. Yes, Your Honor. My client endured months of neglect and emotional abandonment before Mr. Choi began his affair with Mr. Woo-jin, ultimately resulting in a pregnancy that occurred while my client and Mr. Choi were still legally bonded. And Mr. Choi's response? Taesung rose smoothly. Your Honor, we will demonstrate that Mr. Park engaged in serial infidelity throughout the relationship, publicly humiliated Mr. Choi, and severed their bond through his own actions before Mr. Choi ever met Mr. Woo-jin. Furthermore, we have evidence that contradicts every claim of abandonment and neglect. Judge Kang's eyebrow raised. This should be interesting. I'm setting a trial date for 6 weeks from now. Both parties will submit all evidence for discovery within 2 weeks. Dismissed. Outside the courtroom, Jun-sik intercepted them, Min-jun a silent presence at his shoulder. You look tired, Kyung-ho. Fatherhood doesn't suit you. Leave us alone, Jun-sik. I'm just saying, when this is over and you're bankrupted by legal fees, don't expect sympathy. You made your choices. His eyes slid to Woo-jin with calculated cruelty. Hope the baby was worth destroying your life over. Woo-jin stepped forward, surprising everyone including himself. The only person destroying anything here is you. Kyung-ho's building a life, a real one, with people who actually love him. You're just bitter that he's happier without you. For a moment, something ugly flashed across Jun-sik's face. Then he laughed, sharp and dismissive, before walking away. The next 6 weeks were a marathon of preparation. Taesung worked tirelessly, interviewing witnesses, compiling evidence, building an airtight case. Former colleagues came forward with stories of Jun-sik's behavior at events. The bartender from Bar 9 provided security footage. Most damning of all, Min-jun's ex-boyfriend provided screenshots of conversations between Min-jun and Jun-sik dating back 8 months into Kyung-ho and Jun-sik's relationship, explicit discussions of their affair and mockery of Kyung-ho's weakness. This is nuclear, Taesung said with grim satisfaction. They planned this. Documented their own infidelity like idiots. At home, life continued in beautiful contradiction to the legal chaos. Ho-jun grew, his tiny features becoming more defined, his smiles more frequent. Kyung-ho would pace the apartment at 3 a.m., sun against his shoulder, murmuring about the trial while Ho-jun dozed peacefully. Your daddy's going to win, Woo-jin would whisper during feedings, stroking their baby's downy hair. And then we'll never have to deal with that horrible man again. The trial began on a Monday morning, the courtroom packed with curious onlookers. The scandal had leaked online, Omegaverse drama playing out in real time. Jun-sik took the stand first, his testimony a masterclass in manipulation. I gave him everything, Jun-sik said, voice trembling perfectly. I supported his career, attended his events, tried to be the perfect Omega. But he was always distant, always working. He made me feel invisible. When I sought comfort elsewhere, it was only because I was so desperately lonely. And when did you discover Mr. Choi's affair? His lawyer prompted. When I saw social media posts about his new Omega being pregnant. I was devastated. We were still bonded. Legally, spiritually. He betrayed everything we had. The performance was flawless. Several people in the gallery looked sympathetic. Then Taesung began cross-examination. Mr. Park, you claim Mr. Choi made you feel invisible. Is that why you publicly flirted with his professional rival at the Architectural Society Gala? Jun-sik's composure flickered. I was networking. Networking by letting another alpha scent your bonding mark in front of your partner's colleagues? Taesung produced photographs, projected them on screens. Is this standard networking in your industry? That was taken out of context. What about these hotel receipts? 4 different establishments over 6 months, all charged to credit cards in your name, all on dates when you told Mr. Choi you were working late. The documents appeared on screen, damning and detailed. Jun-sik paled. I can explain. Please do explain these text messages. Taesung's voice was surgical precision. Messages between you and Mr. Min-jun, dated 7 months before your relationship with Mr. Choi ended. Messages explicitly discussing your sexual relationship and mocking Mr. Choi's, I quote, pathetic inability to satisfy a real Omega. The courtroom erupted. Judge Kang's gavel cracked like thunder. Order. But the damage was done. On the screens, for everyone to see, was proof of Jun-sik's calculated betrayal. Not a moment of weakness. Not seeking comfort in loneliness. A deliberate, sustained affair conducted with mockery and contempt. I have 12 witnesses prepared to testify about Mr. Park's behavior. Taesung continued relentlessly. Hotel staff, event attendees, mutual friends who watched him systematically humiliate Mr. Choi for months. Would you like to continue claiming you were the victim here? Jun-sik's lawyer called for recess. In the hallway, Kyung-ho pulled Woo-jin close, both shaking with adrenaline and relief. It's working, Woo-jin whispered. It's the truth, Kyung-ho replied. Finally, the trial's final day arrived with the weight of inevitability. Kyung-ho took the stand, Ho-jun sleeping peacefully in Woo-jin's arms in the gallery, a living testament to the life they'd built from ruins. Tell us about your relationship with Mr. Park, Taesung prompted gently. Kyung-ho spoke clearly, without embellishment. He described the bonding ceremony, the gradual erosion of respect, the public humiliations. He detailed coming home to find Jun-sik smelling of other alphas, the wine spilled on his presentation, the parties he wasn't invited to where his Omega flaunted affairs with his rivals. When did you meet Mr. Woo-jin? 3 weeks after Jun-sik and I separated. After he'd already broken our bond by sleeping with Min-jun at a party documented on social media. Kyung-ho's voice stayed steady. I was trying to move forward. Woo-jin was doing the same. We found each other at our lowest points. And the pregnancy? Unplanned. But not unwanted. Kyung-ho looked at Woo-jin at their son. Never unwanted. Jun-sik's lawyer tried to salvage the case during cross-examination, suggesting Kyung-ho had been emotionally unavailable, that his work obsession drove Jun-sik to seek attention elsewhere. But every accusation crumbled against the evidence Taesung had compiled. Then came the witnesses. Director Han testified about Jun-sik's deliberate disruption at the gala. The bartender from Bar 9 described seeing Jun-sik with multiple alphas over months. Min-jun's ex-boyfriend took the stand, visibly nervous but determined. They used to laugh about it, he testified quietly. Min-jun would show me texts from Jun-sik, mocking Kyung-ho for being too soft, for actually caring. They thought it was funny, how easy it was to fool him. The final blow came from an unexpected source. One of Jun-sik's own friends, a beta event planner who'd apparently grown a conscience, provided recordings from a brunch 3 months into the affair. Jun-sik's voice, bright and cruel, filled the courtroom. Kyung-ho's so pathetic. He actually believes I'm working late. Min-jun says I should just leave him. But why? I get the stability of a bonded mate and the excitement of a real alpha. Best of both worlds. Laughter on the recording. Then Jun-sik again. Besides, if I leave, I lose the sympathy angle. This way, when it all falls apart, I'm the victim. The neglected Omega who is driven to desperate measures. People eat that up. Judge Kang's expression could have frozen fire. Closing arguments were almost anticlimactic. Taesung systematically dismantled every claim, painting a picture of calculated manipulation and serial infidelity. Jun-sik's lawyer, visibly deflated, could only argue for emotional distress, which rang hollow against recordings of Jun-sik laughing about his deception. The verdict came down after only 2 hours of deliberation. This court finds no merit to the plaintiff's claims of infidelity or emotional damages, Judge Kang announced, her voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. The evidence overwhelmingly demonstrates that Mr. Park engaged in sustained, premeditated infidelity while bonded to Mr. Choi, publicly humiliated him, and severed their bond through his own actions. Furthermore, the recordings presented show a pattern of manipulation and calculated cruelty that this court finds unconscionable. Jun-sik sat frozen, Min-jun beside him looking ready to bolt. Not only is the complaint dismissed with prejudice, but I'm awarding Mr. Choi 50,000 in damages for malicious prosecution and emotional distress. Additionally, I'm issuing a restraining order. Mr. Park is to have no contact with Mr. Choi or his family. Judge Kang's gavel fell with finality. Case closed. The courtroom erupted. Kyung-ho felt Woo-jin's arms around him, felt their son between them, and finally allowed himself to breathe. Outside, reporters swarmed, but Tae-sung handled them with practiced efficiency. Kyung-ho caught one final glimpse of Jun-sik, face pale, composure shattered, Min-jun already walking away from him. For a moment, he almost felt pity. Then Ho-jun made a small sound, and Kyung-ho remembered what actually mattered. "Let's go home," Woo-jin whispered. 3 months later, on a sunny afternoon in the park, Kyung-ho knelt in the grass while Ho-jun practiced tummy time on a blanket, gurgling happily at falling leaves. "Woo-jin," Kyung-ho said, pulling out a simple silver band. "We've built something beautiful from broken pieces. You and Ho-jun, you're my family, my home, my future. Would you let me make it official? Will you bond with me?" Woo-jin's eyes filled with tears, hand covering his mouth. "Yes. God, yes." They bonded quietly a week later, just family and close friends, Ho-jun sleeping through the ceremony in his grandmother's arms. No drama, no performance, no ulterior motives. Just two people who'd found each other in the wreckage and built something real. Kyung-ho's community center broke ground that fall. Woo-jin expanded the bookstore. Ho-jun took his first steps in their living room at 10 months old, stumbling between his fathers with determined giggles. And somewhere across the city, Jun-sik's social media accounts went dark, his reputation in ruins, facing the consequences of his own cruelty. But Kyung-ho didn't think about him anymore. He was too busy living the life he deserved, surrounded by love, building futures instead of dwelling on the past, teaching his son that strength comes in many forms, and weakness was never loving too much. It was never loving at all. The end.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the story, tell us your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell for more stories.